if you don't mind, I'd like to transition over to the South American game.
Okay, sure.
Okay? Sticking on coaches, we have a coach here who's been putting up a really good job so far, transitioning a team out of their golden generation and out of the weird phase that they were in into hopefully a really positive one. Do you know where I'm going with this? Colombia, my friend. I think Nestor Lorenzo has done an incredible job so far, guiding Colombia to the longest unbeaten run right now actively in international football with 21 games undefeated. This is a Colombian team, bro, that during World Cup qualifiers pissed us off, man.
Dude.
Do you remember that run? It was right when we were starting the podcast. They went like 7-8 games where they could not score a single goal, man. Colombians were down bad, and we saw, bro, because they ultimately failed to qualify for the World Cup, man.
They sucked.
They sucked, and it was a failure because there was still talent there, but I really do think it was the weird transitionary period of leaving that old golden generation that they had in 2014 and 2018 and then starting to adapt to this new modern era of football. But what I think we're seeing now is finally like the light at the end of the tunnel for Colombia, because they've transitioned that old talent out and they've included a lot of brand new young players that have a really positive spirit to them, that we're seeing them guide them to this unbeaten run in international football, bro. It's really, really positive. With this international break, defeating Spain in Europe 1-0, and then defeating Romania 3-2 at home, I believe. Two really solid results, but results that just stacked upon themselves after everything we've seen so far from them. I think Colombia has been really, really good, and I'm starting to keep an eye on them, bro, because the Copa America is right around the corner. How will they perform?
I'm so impressed with how well Colombia has done post-World Cup. You think about it, it's only been a year and a half, but they've completely turned around their fortunes. If I'm being completely honest, I thought it was going to take a lot longer for the Colombian transition to be successful with this new generation. I mean, because we're seeing Chile, Peru really struggle with their transitionary period out of their golden generation.
Chile, man.
Like, really struggle.
Chile's been stuck for a while.
Damn. They've been stuck. And I thought Colombia would be stuck, not as bad as, let's say, Chile, but at least for like 2-3 years. But no, man. I mean, they've completely turned it around, so much so that I have them as genuine contenders going into this Copa America. You asked me if I would have thought the same thing just even like 6 months ago. I'd be like, no. Colombia's going to be a feisty team. But the form that they're in, the way that they're playing, but also just you can see it in their energy, the way that they approach every single game. They're happy to be there. They're playing really pretty football. You have guys in really good form as well. Colombia is going to be a force at this Copa America. And the timing, bro, for Colombia could not be any better. You pop off here at the States this summer, and then you build yourself for a really good World Cup qualifying campaign going into 2026. This is really good news for Colombia, man.
Really good, man.
And it's also really interesting that James Rodriguez still finds a way to be fairly instrumental to this Colombian national team.
It's crazy, bro, because I do think that's one of the reasons why the transition has happened so quickly, is because they've been kind of cold in their approach. Like, for example, Davinson Sanchez doesn't get playing time anymore. He's only 30 years old, bro. He's not like that old. Zapata doesn't get starting time anymore. Ospina is basically out. Cuadrado's out, but that would make sense because he's like 35 years old, right? But there are some decisions there where the guys aren't necessarily old or washed, but there's something about like having a spirit amongst them, or just an idea that I think involves this new generation that we're seeing. And James Rodriguez has been one of the few guys that was able to outlast that really muddy period they were in, because I saw that he still gets started. He still gets starts every now and then. He still provides like really important assists and goals if needed too. So that's been surprising. But then I think the two big factors of why Colombia has been so good, first and foremost, is the rise of Luis Diaz.
Oh, yeah.
That one is actually crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it's huge.
Everything runs through him. It's almost like a Vinny Jr. at Real Madrid type situation. When in doubt, Luis Diaz it out. Because you just throw that ball over to the left wing and he can cook up an opportunity in so many different ways. We see it with how successful he is at Liverpool. But over at Colombia, man, he's got that extra added layer of passion, man, putting on that Colombian jersey. And he just created so many opportunities this past weekend where I was just like, man, Luis Diaz is the guy for them. He runs their offense, and it's just incredible what he can generate. And then lastly, it's the inclusion of new names like Jorge Carrascal, John Arias, the Fluminense player, Jefferson Lerma, continue to play at a high level in the Prem, Johan Mojica, And then the center backs, John Lucumi and Carlos Cuesta. New names here, bro, that I'm not used to seeing, but I think have really become the regulars now for this Colombian team that are bringing in this new era that we're speaking so positively about.
Yeah, it's an example of great transition when you look at the squad. You already kind of mentioned it. The old players that are still there are still instrumental. They still give their minutes. They still provide that veteran experience, but you look at the players that have been included into this team, like John Arias, for example, Carrascal. They play top quality football, just at a slightly lower level than, let's say, the top 3 leagues in the world. But you bring it all together, you give them a role, and it just works really beautifully. Luckily, Colombia has that almost luxury that they do have still a really good amount of players throughout the world and also throughout South America that they can pick from. Yeah. But again, full credit to Nestor Lorenzo for picking the right guys and actually building a really solid foundation for a really successful Colombia.
Where does Colombia rank them right now in the Americas? Let's just put a number to it. I'm gonna go.
I mean, if you go,
I think they're at the U.S. level, like right now. I would put them tied for like 4th.
I would say if you go off of form.
Oh well, yeah.
If you go off of form, they'd be like 3rd. I would say like Argentina 1 still. Let's just say that. You can't put Brazil because their form has actually not been that good. I would put Uruguay as 2nd, and then I'd put Colombia 3, or tied for 3 with the U.S. essentially.
Yeah. I think Colombia's really hot right now.
They're really hot in terms of form. Yeah.
Best team in the Americas right now, I would, that's different.
That's what we're going to find out of the Copa.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll find out. I could see a quarterfinal, semifinal run in the works for Colombia here if things work out for them, bro. I mean, the team is there now. This is a completely different team now, man.
Dude, same,
completely
man.
different team.
And I'm so actually excited and grateful because now we just, all of a sudden, there's an extra team that is really good at the Copa America this summer. Thank God, because just the higher the quality, the more teams that are really good, just the better, more insane that this tournament's going to be. So let's go Colombia, man. I'm so happy they've shown up.
Yes.